Um, so Mark, greetings from Tbilisi. People talk about individuality, unable to divide, but I see no evidence for this in anyone I've met, including myself. We're not individuals. If we assume that Christ was an individual, then is not individuality a good thing to pursue? Then, then, if we assume that Christ was an individual, then is not individuality a good thing to pursue? And so I think that it's important to understand, like, if you notice, I rarely ever use the word individual. I mean, I know that Jordan uses that word a lot, and kind of the idea of individual rights. And at least I think that in Christian terms, we tend to talk about persons. And the reason why we talk about persons in the traditional sense, the idea of hypostasis, is related to the idea that persons are united by a nature, and persons are not individual in the absolute sense. That is, they're communal, you could say. So our Trinitarian theology and the Christology tends to point towards the idea of something which exists fully, like a person has its own reality, its own kind of ontological reality, but that reality is shared with others, and there's a kind of interpenetration between persons that come together and maintain their separateness, but are always being filled and are filling others with their presence, you could say. And so it's definitely a different vision, and it's one which, in a certain manner, doesn't totally jive with just the idea of the obsession with individual rights and freedom, which we see in some of the Enlightenment project and something like the American project as well. So I would say it's better to use the word person. It's a much better term, and it has a rich history and a rich connotations that avoid this idea, like you said, of the individual as like isolated or impossible of being divided.